guys, welcome back to the channel where we talk about all things books. My name is Chloe if you're new here, and it's great to have you. So I want to start a new segment on the channel where every week I give you a roundup of all of the big sci-fi and fantasy news that's gone on that week. So we're talking things like new book releases, deals, film and TV, everything in the sci-fi and fantasy world. So welcome to episode 1. If you want to stay updated with all the biggest sci-fi and fantasy news, then don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification if you want to be notified when I post a new video. So with all that being said, go grab your favourite drink and let's get into it. First up, let's take a week at this week's brand new releases. So we have quite a few new fantasy sci-fi books hitting shelves this week, and I've also sprinkled in a couple of romantasy and some YA as well in case anyone's interested in those. First up, we have Grave Empire by Richard Swan. This was actually released last week, but I still wanted to include it. It's the first book in the Great Silent series where we see an empire on the verge of industrial revolution, and sorcery and magic have been outlawed. The Moonlight Healers by Elizabeth Becker is a debut magical fantasy with a twist. It follows a woman's discovery of her family's secret healing abilities, i.e. they can bring people back from the dead. Next up then we have Of Shadows, Stars and Sabres. This is an anthology of fantasy, sci-fi and horror short stories edited by Jindia Gammon and Gareth L. Powell and written by a huge list of fantasy sci-fi authors. Next we have Sanctum of the Soul by Kel Cade. This is the conclusion to the Shroud of Prophecy trilogy that follows our main character Matthias, who discovers it's his destiny to save the world, but very quickly finds out that being a hero isn't all it's cut out to be. Then we have The Desert Talon by Karen Loaki. This is book 2 in the Crowns of Aishia trilogy, which sees our main character have to return back to her homeland after it was desecrated by war to capture a king dragon or die trying. The Crimson Road by A.J. Slater is a dark gothic fantasy set in the same universe as their other books and follows vampires, assassins and witches. This one is given all the spooky vibes and is going to be a great read for Halloween. Moving into some sci-fi releases then, the first one we have is Symbiotes by Michael Nyack. Here we see World War III in full swing and follow a group of American scientists at the South Pole who think they're safe until a group of Chinese scientists arrive with a dead body and a deadly parasite, but unfortunately rescue is months away. The Perfect Stranger by Brian Pinkerton is an AI-inspired sci-fi novel that sees main character Linda start to question whether or not her new hire Allison is even human after she experiences some cyber attacks. Moving into the romantasy realm then, we have Emily Wilde's Compendium of Lost Tales, which is the third in Heather Fawcett's Emily Wilde series. This one follows the main character, Emily Wilde, as she now tries to navigate the inner workings of the fairy realm as its queen. Next we have The Rising by Joe Riccione. This is the conclusion to the branded season duology where two sisters have to harness their powers and fight for their lives. Next up in romantasy we have What Lies Beyond the Veil by Harper L. Woods. This is an adult romantasy, guys, so strictly 18+. Here we see the veil that has kept the Fae at bay shattered, and main character Lyria must flee before she's captured by the Wild Hunt with the help of her Fae-marked fugitive. A couple of YA releases then. First up we have Skin by E.B. Zoboy. This is a contemporary fantasy debut inspired by Caribbean folklore about the power of inherited magic and the price we have to pay to live for what we yearn for. And finally we have The Forest King's Daughter by Ellie Blair. This is about a young forest princess who becomes friends with a lonely demon boy. He gives her a present and all hell breaks loose and starts a war. Moving on to the screen adaptations then. So let's start with Rings of Power. Amazon has officially renewed for season 3, which to be fair we were all expecting anyway, but it is now official. They are fully committing to their expansion of Middle Earth. Honestly, I'm a bit surprised given how much season 2 tanked, let's be honest, but here's hoping the next one's going to be better. So in their statement, Amazon said that there's going to be a time jump for this new season. It's going to be a couple of years in the future from where we finished off in season 2. And their official announcement said, jumping forward several years from the events of season 2, season 3 takes place at the height of the War of the Elves and Sauron, as the Dark Lord seeks to craft the One Ring that will give him the edge he needs to win the war and conquer all Middle-earth at last. Honestly, I think it's a bit bizarre, given the fact that thousands of years worth of history have been condensed massively with this series. So I'm not so sure that a couple of years really matters, but hey, what do I know? And I'm still gonna watch it, so let's be real. Next up, we also have some major casting news for the upcoming HBO adaptation of Harry Potter that literally no one asked for. But we now know who will play Professor Dumbledore. And there's been a few big names rumoured to be in talks for the roles of Professor Quirrell and Sirius Black. John Lithgow is said to be in talks to take on the role of Professor Dumbledore. Apparently he is in the final stages of negotiating his contract, so by the sounds of it that one's pretty much a given. But surprisingly, there's also been some rumours that Cillian Murphy has been approached to take on the role of Professor Quirrell. Personally, I don't see it. I think he would be far better off playing a villain, you know, like a Voldemort. Obviously, I think he'd be amazing in that role, but I understand he's a pretty big name. He's probably not going to be able to commit to multiple seasons, so I don't know, we'll see. Finally, in a recent interview, Ben Barnes was also asked about his huge number of fan castings as Sirius Black. Now, most of these actually were for the prequel, The Marauders, that everyone has been begging for, but no one was listened to. People thought he would make a perfect young Sirius Black, but he said in his interview that he's now actually at the age where he could play the character in the main series, and when asked if he would or if he was going to, if he had been approached, he didn't exactly shut down the rumours, so maybe. I mean, I get that this is all speculation just now, but it would definitely be interesting to see. Moving on then, Netflix has also released its official poster for season 4 of The Witcher. This is our first real promotional material that we've had with Liam Hemsworth as Geralt. Many fans, including myself, are skeptical about the casting change, but Netflix is definitely pushing forward with their vision. Personally, I think I might be out. I just feel that Henry Cavill was perfect for the role, and not just because he's, you know, Henry Cavill, but also he left because of conflicts with the showrunners regarding them straying too far from the source material, and that kind of makes me nervous a little bit. They obviously weren't willing to budge. He left, they've got someone in that was willing to do whatever it is that they're asking to, and I just fear for where this series is going. But yes, we'll see. I'll probably tune in for the first couple of episodes, make my mind up then, but honestly, I just don't see it. It just doesn't look like Geralt. I mean, no disrespect to Liam Hemsworth, but I kind of feel like he looks like a guy who's just wearing a Halloween costume, you know? It just doesn't seem to fit him. I don't know. Let me know in the comments down below if you are in or out for this next one. Now for some disappointing news for Romantasy fans. The screen adaptation of A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J Maas has been scrapped. Yes, the long-rumoured TV series is now in the bin. So despite years of development and fan anticipation, the adaptation is officially shelved. There's been no clear reason given, but it seems like this one just wasn't meant to be, at least not yet. These sort of things do happen all the time. Contracts are signed, things get put on the shelf and don't get written, and then they expire, and then another network picks it up and the whole process starts again. So it might not be dead in the water just yet, but we are still waiting on any official announcement from Sarah J Maas as to whether or not anyone else is in the pipeline to pick it up. Another author update for you then. Brandon Sanderson has said in a recent interview that we will not see any of his books adapted for the screen anytime soon. He made it very clear that he is waiting for the right studio and the right creative team to bring his stories to life. There's been a lot of speculation recently about an adaptation of the Stormlight Archive. The Mistborn trilogy was in the works for a little while before that was scrapped. So he's definitely not in a rush, and honestly, given how huge his works are, I think that's probably for the best. There have been too many times that we have got screen adaptations that have fallen so far short of what the novel gave us that it honestly would have been better if they just weren't made. So I actually agree with this decision. I think wait it out, find someone who's going to do it right, and hopefully we might actually get a Mistborn series at some point in the future. And finally, some positive news for George R.R. Martin fans. The author has revealed that he is, wait for it, happy with the episodes of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms that he's seen so far. Given Martin's history of being very vocal about his dissatisfaction with certain adaptations, this is a pretty big deal. If he's on board, then there is a strong chance that this series will be a good addition to the Game of Thrones world. I, for one, am very excited to see this series. House of Dragon was... it was okay. It wasn't horrendous, but it wasn't the best. But we'll see. This one, if he's happy with it, I'm excited. Let's get into some cover reveals then. First up, we have Cold Wire by Chloe Gong. This is the first in her dystopian trilogy, kind of a little bit like Ready Player One, except this one follows an ousted corporate soldier who has to clear her name of treason. Then we finally got the reveal of Catabasis cover by R.F. Kuang. This is her new dark academia fantasy following two graduates who have to put aside their rivalry and journey to hell to save their professor's soul. Next up, we have Written on the Dark by Guy Gavriel Kay. He is the master of lyrical historical fantasy, and I, for one, am very excited for this one. It's coming out in May 2025. Travis Baldry is back with a new cozy fantasy, Brigands and Bread Knives. We got the cover reveal for book 3 this week, and by the looks of it, we are going to be getting some returning characters in this one. I think we're going to be getting a lot more from Fern. We were also treated to some new cover art. John Gwyn's Of Blood and Bone trilogy is getting a redesign only for the paperback. We're getting a new colourway and font design to match his other series. And we also got the cover reveal for Of Darkness and Light by Ryan Cahill. This is the Broken Binding edition that was released earlier in the week as well. And speaking of the Broken Binding, we also got some more sneak peeks at the Inheritance Cycle artwork for books 1, 2, 3. And while we're on the topic of nostalgic series, the Twilight Saga is getting a 20-year special edition. Love it or hate it, this series continues to have a chokehold on everyone, and I won't lie, I think these editions are gorgeous. We also got a new sneak peek at the Catching Fire illustrated edition by Suzanne Collins. This is book 2 in the Hunger Games series. Book 1 also has an equally gorgeous edition. Time for some new book announcements then. Jendia Gammon has revealed she has a new trilogy in the works, The Veil of the Seven Dragons, published by Sley House Publishing. The first one will be released next year, with books 2 and 3 coming out in 2027 and 2028 respectively. And Stephen King is doing children's novels. Yes, he is reimagining Hansel and Gretel and releasing a picture book. This is in collaboration with the late Maurice Sendak, who originally made the illustrations for the 1997 opera, and they are now being brought back out for the story. And finally then, some very bittersweet news for Red Rising fans. Pierce Brown has said in a recent Instagram interview that Red God will not be released in 2025 as originally intended, and instead the earliest we're going to get this book is summer 2026. He also mentioned that this book might be split into 2 parts because there's just so much material, but that he's trying to avoid it at all costs. And to be honest with you, I'm kind of hoping that he does, because I feel like splitting the book into 2 parts is just going to make the story lose all momentum. I'm not generally a fan of it, although I am here for new content. I do hope that we get it all in one volume. Listen, if Brando Sando can release 1,000+ page books, so can you, Pierce. I have faith. Alright guys, that's it for this week's Sci-Fi and Fantasy News Roundup. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more bookish content from me. Let me know in the comments what you're most hyped up about this week, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye guys.